Hey there everyone, welcome to Tales in Text and I'm your host Nisha and welcome to another book review. And in today's video, I am going to be reviewing Kalidasa's Meghadutam. Kalidasa is a poet who is believed to have been born sometime who's believed to have been either born or have worked sometime between the 4th and 5th century CE. And he's considered one of India's classical poets, and he's considered to have created 7 major works, which includes 3 plays, 2 epic poems and 2 lyric poems. According to legend, he was one of the 9 jewels or Navaratna of the court of the Gupta king Chandragupta II. And very little is known about Kalidasa or his lifetime. And you'll remember that I mentioned in the Kumarasambham video as well that there are some theories that Kalidasa could have just been a title, the Dasa of Kali or the servant of Kali, the Ma Kali. And it could have been multiple people who had taken on the moniker of the name Kalidasa and written these works or rather penned works under this particular name. And only 7 are believed to have been credited to one single individual whose writing style is sort of similar across the board for those 7 works. So Kalidasa is shrouded in mystery, but I think we are very thankful that his works are still present today because they're just a joy to read. Srinivas Reddy, the translator, is a scholar, a translator and a musician. He trained in South Asian languages and literature at Brown University and in the University of California, Berkeley. His previous translations include Krishnadevaraya's Telugu epic Amukta Malayada, the giver of the worn garland, and Kalidasa's play Malvikagnimithram, the dancer and the king. Srinivas Reddy is also a concert sitarist and has given numerous recitals around the world. He now lives in Gujarat and teaches at IIT Gandhinagar. So quite an academician and speaks volumes, and his bio speaks volumes about his credibility as a translator as well. So now let's dive right into this book. First off, I want to talk a bit about the style of writing. So don't mind me, I am going to be referring to my notes so I can make this video as easy to understand as possible. So speaking about the style of writing, Meghadutam is actually a poem, and but the translation is sort of semi-poem, semi-prose. And what I mean is this. So as you can see over here, the text is poetic, but it's written in such long sentences that it could almost always also be considered prose. Secondly, this is just my observation. Again, I could be wrong, I'm not very sure. I did see the use of enjambments, a sort of, I would say, it's a technique of writing poetry or a device or a poetic device that's used. So enjambments is basically where you start the first sentence and the first sentence doesn't end in one sentence, like how some types of poems actually end, but it continues into the next sentence. In fact, you can use a part of the first sentence to create a whole new sentence along with the second sentence. So for example, let's take this particular page only as an example. The first sentence reads, "Join sleeping doves on the terrace of a city mansion." And the second sentence is, "and pass the night." The third sentence is, "with your precious wife." So you could read this in 2 ways. One is you can combine sentence 1 and sentence 2 and it reads, "Join sleeping doves on the terrace of a city mansion and pass the night." That's a single line, or rather I would say single couplet. Or, "pass the night with your precious wife." So as you can see, I don't know if it's coming through in the video, but it's basically where multiple sentences sort of can be joined to create a cohesive sentence, like for sentence 1 and sentence 2 form a cohesive couplet, but at the same time sentence 2 and sentence 3 can also be a singular line, a continuation of the line as well. So there is a usage of enjambment. So I don't know how the actual Sanskrit text is, because I'm sure that they would have had something similar perhaps, but it was called by a different name. The poetic devices were called by a different name. Maybe the execution was a little different, and maybe Srinivas or Reddy chose this particular form of translation for this work. So I am not 100% sure. If there's anyone who has read the Sanskrit version of Meghadutam, please do let me know in the comments what poetic devices are used here. Now, because of the nature of the poetic devices used, the text actually reads sort of like a semi-poetry, semi-prose. There are some sentences that are very short, but others that are really long, that actually span multiple sentences. And it is very descriptive, it is very fluid, and it is very beautiful. Next, I want to talk about what this book is actually about. Meghadutam, for the largest part, is a very descriptive poem, and it could also be read as a travelogue. But ultimately at its core, it's a book about love, loss and longing. It is a book about love because it is a book about a Yaksha who is so deeply in love with his wife, but he has been separated from his wife because of an exile that Kubera has, the god of wealth, has given him. So Kubera is angry for him for some reason. The reason is not explained why in the poem, but he has been exiled. The Yaksha has been exiled for 1 year. 8 months have passed, and the Yaksha is terribly missing his wife. And he's deeply in love with his wife, and he has been forced apart. And therefore, because of this separation, this forced separation, he is devastated. And he knows that his wife is devastated as well. And so this book is about love and loss, and it's also about longing, because the longing part comes in when the Yaksha meets a rain cloud, a massive rain cloud, which he describes as big as an elephant calf. And he feels that as this rain cloud is passing across the length of the country, it can take his message of love to his wife and reassure her that there are only 4 months left. And I'm thinking of you constantly, and I can't wait to get back to you. I can't wait to come back into your arms. So it's a book about love, loss and longing, but at the same time, it's also a beautiful travelogue. It's the entire book is so descriptive. You start out at Chitrakoota mountain, where yes, this is the Chitrakoota mountain where Sri Rama came to in the Ramayana. And we start out, and as you know, Chitrakoota is very much in the south of India. And as you know, Kubera lives in Mount Kailasa. He is the best friend of Lord Shiva. And so that is completely on the other side of the country. So the cloud has to pass through the entire length of the country, the entire length of ancient Bharata, as it travels from Chitrakoota to Kailasa to Alakapuri, to be very specific. Alakapuri is where the Yakshas live, which is Kubera's kingdom. And the first part of the book, so the book is divided into 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is the the request, I would say, and the part 2 is about the actual message, the conversation. So the part 1 is entirety, it's sort of like a travelogue, and the descriptions of nature as the cloud passes from Chitrakoota to Alakapuri are absolutely stunning. You get to see, and in some ways you get to see that the route that the ancient travelers took at the time of Kalidasa. I know I'm using the word ancient. It's not super ancient, but it is 4th and 5th century CE is a pretty long time. So these millennia old travelers, what is the route that they might have taken? What are the rivers that they might have come across and they might have stopped at to quench their thirst? What are the trees whose fruits they might have plucked to eat? Where are the honeybee hives which they might have harnessed and tapped into for honey? You can envision and imagine, and just in your mind's eye, the entirety of the beauty of Bharata from the south to the north. The book itself is sort of like I would say a guide for your travels as well, because a lot of these natural resources still exist today. And I think as you travel through the country, especially if you have read Meghadutam, you can feel yourself sort of transported into that ancient world. The book is also about, I would say, like I said, love, loss, and longing. But the love, loss, and longing is not just a human experience. The book actually talks of how love is a universal thing, and when as a universal experience, it actually is something that is experienced even by non-human creatures, even by the natural elements, by plants, flowers, trees, lakes, rivers, oceans, and even by celestial creatures like Yaksha. The entire book, along with the descriptions of nature, is also replete with descriptions of love and lovemaking. It is a very sexually charged book. It is a very romantic book. The overtones are very romantic. The overtones are sexual, not in a crass way. I mean, I never at any point when I was reading this book did I feel, oh, this is disgusting, what is the writer talking about? No, the subject of love, the subject of physical love, the subject of sex has been handled very, very sensitively. And it's very beautiful, it's very subtle, it's very sensitive, and you can genuinely feel, these days, sort of to digress a slight bit, we see sex made into a commodity in the media, with television and OTT sort of, cheapening it for gimmicks and for TRPs. So you sort of start feeling that this is something that the entire concept of making love is something that is cheapened in the current world. And considering all of the sexual crimes that take place online, offline, I mean, it's an activity that is, yes, people indulge in it, obviously people are human, but it's still something that is sort of cheapened to a large extent. But in Meghadutam, you never feel that cheapened quality. Love making, sex, the physical act of love is still all about love. It's all about expressing your love. It's all about expressing your commitment to your partner. So it's absolutely beautiful. It's very sensitively handled, and I really appreciate that. In the olden days, people actually understood that. I would say they upheld the integrity of the act, upheld the integrity of the emotions, upheld the integrity of the union of two people or two creatures coming together. I think that's a beautiful thing, and it's such a sad thing that in current day we don't really showcase that in whatever mediums that we engage with. So this book is actually about the love between Yakshas, and also in some ways the love between natural elements, because interestingly, the cloud is also posited as a loving being, as a being who brings a lot of love and for other natural elements, and sort of impregnates them with his love. And what I mean is the rain, so this is a rain cloud, right? So the rain cloud is the one whose rain fills up the lakes. So the lakes are personified as women, and the rain cloud is the man, and their union produces this water body that acts as a source of nourishment for all people and for all creatures. The rain cloud is the man who comes to meet large forests, and the forests is the woman who's eagerly awaiting her paramours arrival, and she reaches out her branches to the rain cloud in anticipation. And the rain cloud, it showcases its love for the forest through the rains. So it's very beautiful, it's very poetic, it's very descriptive. So it's a very nice, I would say, very enjoyable way of reading this poem. Like I mentioned, how the first part of the poem is almost like a travelogue. It's almost like a movement from the south of India to the north of India. At this particular stage, the Yaksha introduces himself to the cloud, and he requests him, I know you don't know me, but I need you to help me. Can you please help a man who's broken-hearted and a woman who is devastated? Can you please help us sort of get in touch with each other, because it's been so long since I've separated from my lover. And he asks the rain cloud to extend its compassion and to become a little sympathetic. And it is during this stage that the Yaksha sort of personifies the cloud's engagement with other natural creatures, like I just mentioned, the trees and the lakes. And he personifies the cloud's journey, and he reminds the cloud that, look, you are no different from me. Now, as you travel through the length of this country, you are going to meet your paramours, you're going to meet all the people who are in love with you and who you are in love with, and you're going to share these experiences. And just like how you are sharing these experiences with them, know that I am denied the experience to love my wife, to be with my wife, to hold my wife, just like she is denied the experience of being with me. And so the Yaksha appeals to the sympathy and kindness of the cloud by asking him to remember the feeling of fulfillment and happiness that the cloud gets upon its union with the lakes, upon its union with the forests, and then to empathize or to sympathize with the Yaksha that he's unable to be with his wife. And so during this entire first part of the poem, we see the Yaksha not only requesting the cloud to take a message to his wife, but we also see the Yaksha encouraging the cloud to give more attention than usual to his paramours. The Yaksha never denies the cloud the chance to love or to make love with his partners. And what I mean is, the Yaksha is never impatient. The Yaksha never demands that, you have to go and give this message without stopping anywhere. You must dedicate yourself to my cause. Nothing like that. There is no expectation. There is no entitlement. The Yaksha requests that the cloud, who is anyways making a journey towards Alkapuri, might take this message along with him. But he never denies the cloud the chance to be with his lovers. In fact, the Yaksha actually encourages the cloud to spend more time with his lovers, to give them that attention that they deserve, that they need, that they want, and to actually enjoy himself and to actually feel that strength of that physical love, that union, so that it can sustain the cloud as he goes through the length of the country. And it's really beautiful, and in some ways you can see this compassion from the Yaksha side as well, because he knows the feeling of separation. He doesn't want the cloud to be forced to experience something that he is experiencing. And this sort of compassion, this mutual compassion, is so lovely to see. And there is also a sense of, I would say, brotherhood between the Yaksha and the cloud, which is really, really beautiful. Another thing that you see over here in the first half of the book, because see, the book is actually divided in the sense that the first half is a more universal description of the places and of love and of people engaging in loving activities, and the second one is very, very intimate, because we see the Yaksha, what the Yaksha wants to convey to his wife and his wife's experience as the Yaksha envisions it. So I would say the first part is more public, and the second part is more private and very intimate. And in the first half of the book, you see one of the things that you notice is that not only is the Yaksha encouraging the cloud to make love to his paramours, but you also see an acknowledgement of the sexual agency of the people, not just men but women too. And this is something which is something really interesting, because the way Kalidasa handles physical love, especially when expressed by women or through women, is something very different in Kumarasambhavam versus Meghadutam. In Kumarasambhavam, of course, I mean, it is about the birth of God Kumara, and it actually starts with the wedding of Shiva and Parvati. And because of this, you actually see, because it is a story about gods, and I think Kalidasa was aware of, I think even then, no matter how I would say open the society was, Kalidasa, I think, still did operate with a sense of caution, because this is describing about the I would say the sexual engagement between God Shiva and Goddess Parvati right after their marriage. So he did handle their lovemaking with a bit of, I would say, it was sort of more traditionally leaning, with God Shiva engaging or rather, I would say God Shiva actually being the lead in the sexual engagement with goddess Parvati, and her being an open and loving recipient. So it was more according to conventional expectations of the roles of men and women. But in Meghadutam, you see, because this is a story of creatures who are not gods. This is a story of humans. This is a story of celestial creatures who are not, I would say, not divine, not godly. They still engage with a certain sense of, I would say, they do engage with a sense of freedom. There is a lot of freedom in their sexual experiences. So you see the agency, sexual agency of women being championed. And again, this is handled so beautifully. You see eager men and women coming together as lovers to meet on equal terms, to make love and to share this love with each other. You see women, women being the ones who are willing to go out and to meet their lovers, and they get decked up. They request the moon and the stars to light their way and to keep them safe. And nature obliges, because nature is also loving, nature is compassionate, and these women go and meet their eager paramours. And it's mentioned that it's a reciprocal street, right? It's very beautifully handled, and you see the Yaksha reminding the cloud that, look, everyone is engaging in this love, everyone is engaging in the act of loving, in the act of love making. I am the only poor soul who has been separated from his wife. And the Yaksha requests the cloud to not only make love with his partners, to give them that love, but to also help these other people, other humans, other creatures, as they go on their way to meet their paramours. It asks that on a sunny day, instead of scorching them, give them that cloud covering so that they might feel cool while they're lying in the arms or the embrace of their loved ones. On a stormy night, try to keep away from the moon so that their path is lit, so that they can safely go and meet each other. So it's a very beautiful, there's this beautiful and sensitive handling of I would say sexual agency of both men and women as well, and how nature should support people and creatures when they go out to meet their loved ones. I think it's very nice. It's very sensitive. As you can see, I'm gushing about this book because I really enjoyed it. One of the things that first came up to me when I was reading this book is, we see the Yaksha talking about the cloud having many paramours. There is no judgment. Let me make that very clear. There is no moral judgment from the Yaksha that the cloud has so many paramours. It has many lakes as its lovers, many rivers as its lovers. It has many forests as its lovers. So each forest, each lake, each river is an individual lover who engages with the cloud. And the Yaksha never has any negative connotations or any moral judgments against this. Similarly, the humans who are engaging in lovemaking, they also seem to have either multiple partners or they go meet their partners multiple times during the day and night. So there is no moral judgment in terms of the expression of physical love. So this book is very sex positive. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. It's a very sex positive book, and you see a very stark contrast in the way the Yaksha actually sort of narrates his hopes for the rest of the world, but also his own experiences. So you see how it is normalized to have multiple partners. It is normalized to have sex multiple times during the day. It is, like I said, very sex positive. But at the same time, it is very, very evident that the Yaksha does not want to have sexual relations with anybody else apart from his wife. And he acknowledges that he has sort of, during his exile here, how he actually acknowledges the fact that people assume that when partners are separated, neither can remain faithful to the other, and how this gossip ends up breaking families apart. But he tells the cloud, but I know that just like I am faithful to my wife, I know she is faithful to me, because we love only each other and we want only each other. So there is this sense of monogamy, this really strong bond between the Yaksha and his wife. And it's very interesting because the choice of Yaksha as a character itself, when you speak of monogamy, is very interesting, because Yakshas are not considered human. In fact, Yakshas are considered almost animalistic. They're considered semi, I would say, with human characteristics, but they're not human actually. Some descriptions of Yakshas show them with animal features, again depending on various literatures. So, the first sense of conventionally one would think something with animalistic instincts would not be monogamous. But there are many animals which are monogamous in the world as well. For example, penguins, certain types of vultures. Similarly, you see over here, the Yaksha is monogamous. And he tells the clouds, I know that I am faithful to my wife. I know my wife is faithful to me. We love each other. And please go and have all these loving experiences with all of your partners, but just take this one message to that one partner of mine. So it's a very interesting contrast between because both types of love are normalized. You see the normalization of multiple partners versus normalization of monogamy as well. So every kind of love is acceptable. Every kind of love is valid, and every kind of love is encouraged. So it's a very beautiful thing. So this book is a very, very romantic book. Superficially, it is a very sexually charged book. Superficially, but like I said, the core about this book is about loss and longing. Because no matter what the Yaksha describes, no matter how romantic the descriptions of nature are, or no matter how romantic his memories of his time with his wife are, it is still a book about the loss of these experiences and the separation, the partition, the longing that it creates. In part 2 of the book, we actually see this longing intensifying, because the part 2 of the book is about the actual message. We find out what message the Yaksha wants to deliver to his wife. And he explains to the cloud how the cloud can actually recognize his wife, because the cloud has never seen the Yaksha's wife. So he explains to the cloud about not just how the Yaksha's wife looks, but about how he envisions her in the throes of sorrow and throes of despair. And one of the things that really comes out very strongly is the implicit trust that exists from the Yaksha's side to his wife, and I believe even from the Yaksha's wife to the Yaksha as well. There is this sense of trust, there is this sense of love, there is this sense of loyalty. And so the Yaksha explains about how he knows how his wife is going to be, because she too is despondent and desperate to meet him. And so through these emotional, I would say, adjectives, the Yaksha explains and describes to the cloud how to recognize his wife. Then the Yaksha tells him, to show her that this message is from me, do these things, and then tell her this message. And she will realize, even though your language is one of thunder and lightning, she will know what I am trying to say. So it's really beautiful. And the second part of the book is very emotionally charged. Just like the first part of the book is very descriptive in its natural elements, and it's very ethereal and mystical almost. The second part is very descriptive in terms of the emotions that the writer has used, and it's very, very, I would say, tragic. It's very sad. It's very loaded. It's very beautiful. And the second part of the book, actually, the book ends on a very ambiguous note. After giving the message to the cloud, the Yaksha asked, also bring a message back from her. I know there are only 4 months, but this 4 months is going to be unending. So I want to hear from her after she listens to my message. Please come back on your return journey from the north to the south. And then the book abruptly ends, where the Yaksha thanks the cloud for its support and then sends the cloud on his way and says, thank you for being such a good friend. Now you can go on your way, go wherever you want. I will not throw you back. And you as a reader, you start wondering, did the cloud actually help the Yaksha? Or was this just a case of, the Yaksha wanting a ear, a friendly ear to listen to, who would listen to him, who would a shoulder to cry on, and that outlet was the only thing that was enough. And in his imagination, he consoles himself that, you know, in talking to the cloud, one day the cloud would reach his wife, and his wife would actually listen to what the message is, and then she would return this message of love to him. And these 4 months that are yet to pass in exile will become more bearable. And there's this sense of anticipation. That's where the longing comes in, that the hope for the future. Because despite all of this sadness, all of this sorrow, all of the tragic separation between the two of them, there is still hope that one day that they will come back together, they will reunite, the exile will end. And the Yaksha, he ends his message to the cloud saying that just like a chariot's wheel turns, our life will also keep turning. It is not characterized by just only highs or only lows. And one day this too shall pass, and I shall be back united with my wife. So it is at the end of the day, by the end of the poem, Meghadutam, it ends on a note of hope. You don't know whether the cloud has been able to pass the message to the wife. You don't know if the cloud has brought any message back from the wife to the Yaksha, but the Yaksha remains hopeful. And I think this book is more about the emotional states of the Yaksha rather than the actual giving of the message. Because sometimes just speaking out loud what you're feeling is enough to make you feel better and to give you the courage and hope to hold on and get through your trying times. So, Kalidasa's Meghadutam, really, really lovely. I think if there is a book of Kalidasa that we need to pick up first, I think this is a good book to start with. It does deal with serious topics, but at the same time there are a lot of light elements to this as well. And it's a very universal theme of being in love, of being separated, of wanting to be with your partner. And I think this is a theme that a lot of us can actually empathize with. This edition by Srinivas is definitely very, very nicely translated. I don't know about the other translation. If you have read translations of Meghadutam by any other translator, do let me know in the comments what you feel about it. I would love to know. So yeah, thumbs up for this book. I think it's really great. I'm sure you can hear the rain in this video as well, and it's so strange and it's so serendipitous. I am talking about Meghadutam, the cloud message, the cloud messenger, and it is raining. The rain clouds are listening to me. I don't know, I get stuck by all this so much. It's just so weird. I find it so wonderful that there is so much serendipity in what we do and what nature is doing. I think the rain cloud wanted to listen in on our conversations, and therefore it's raining. What do you think? Alright, if you watched this video so far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time on Tales and Texts. Bye-bye.